Another big one, apart from weight, because that kind of goes without saying, we have brain fog. So where we might have been able to focus so easily, our brain becomes foggy, and going the holistic route can really help clear up that brain fog. And fatigue is another one that women feel. Um, and they may have been very, very energetic in their younger days, but now they find they just have no energy to do anything. There are just a myriad of symptoms. A lot of women experience anxiety where they've never tended to have anxiety before. And I know people in their younger years have that now just because of the pressures of life. But in midlife, it can really become a big deal for people. And again, you can manage it in some simple holistic ways before you have to go the route of medications to help with that. Try something that's natural. So those are some of the big ones. Stress is a huge factor. So we all know that stress, especially in today's society here in the US, more so than a lot of places. I can remember going back to the UK to visit my mom, and it was a slower pace and things were just different. But here in the US, it's like we're on this wheel that never stops. I remember in the corporate world, my job was supposed to be a 9 to 5 gig, and it was usually 6 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And then I couldn't just go home and forget about it. And it was stress, stress, stress. So not only are we dealing with the stresses of life, but we're dealing with the added stresses of the way our hormones are changing. Cortisol, as we know, is a huge one when it comes to our stress, our fight or flight. And when we hit midlife, cortisol can really go on up there and can be a big problem. And then, of course, our estrogen is going down and our progesterone is going down. So all of that contributes to the whole stress thing. And that can be a 2 or 3 week thing that I can do with my clients because it's such a huge part of it. And they don't have to be in perimenopause or menopause for that. People in a high stress corporate job can get the same relief. So that's one of the other pillars. And of course, our movement. And I notice I don't call it exercise, it's movement. It's very important to get movement in on a daily basis. And it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to be out there jogging, you've got to go to the gym, you've got to overexert yourself. At this time in our life, it's been scientifically proven that walking is one of the best things we can do for ourselves. And being out in nature, especially communing with nature when you're going out walking, is a huge benefit for us. And of course, as we age, we do need to remember that we need our muscle strength. So it's not that we're saying don't do that at this stage of life. It's very important to strengthen our muscles. But walking does strengthen your leg muscles. If you're walking and you're holding your stomach in, it can help your abs. You can take little weights out with you if you want and do some small weights as you walk and gain some more strength. There are several pillars, but the nutrition, the stress, the movement are very big ones. And the other big one, of course, is self-care. So our society has taught us that it's very selfish to take care of me. And it took me a long time to get past that. And that's part of the mindset piece. If we don't take care of ourselves, who is going to? And if we don't take care of us, if we find ourselves in midlife having to take care of elderly parents, or say something happens to our spouse, how do we have the energy to deal with that if we're not taking care of us? So it's a huge part of it. Those are the 4 big pillars that I really work with. There are others, but they're kind of underlying things. And when you deal with some of that, you'll find that you're peeling off layers of an onion, so to speak, and you might find something underneath that's a root cause that may have been something from childhood, something that happened to you, some form of trauma in your life, and that often comes up as you start peeling the layers of the onion.
Do you find that other diseases or any type of condition, how much does that affect people who are going through midlife?
And it really does affect them. So if you look at people in midlife and you start talking to people, or you're noticing what they're saying, you've got a lot of women in midlife who are dealing with diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, um, a lot of autoimmune, because inflammation becomes a bigger thing in our bodies. So you've got autoimmune diseases, uh, and those, of course, are really hard to treat and hard to figure out what's going on in your life. Um, those three are some of the biggest ones, but then you're also dealing with thyroid issues very often when you hit that midlife phase. Something happens to us, and maybe we're not functioning as well as we were. And unfortunately, in Western medicine, because I tried it with my doctor a few months ago, I even called in and I said, I know I'm doing a TSH. I want to make sure that the doctor also does a full panel, the T3, everything. I want it all done. And guess what? I had a TSH and he says, your thyroid's great. And I'm thinking, now, if I went to a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath, or some kind of coach that deals with that, they would have done the whole spectrum, including the urine, including maybe a stool sample, which they do, which will better diagnose, do you have a thyroid issue? And I have known many people in midlife that have, and it's normally hypothyroidism, where your thyroid slows down and you start gaining weight and you don't feel like you can lose it. And that's the most common thing that women deal with. And it's really hard because that makes you tired. That makes you not want to focus on things. You can't lose weight. And it's a very, very difficult piece of the puzzle to work with. And as a health coach, I do not diagnose. I don't personally do blood tests, but I can refer out to people I know in my community that will do the blood tests and give people what they need at this stage in life. Earlier, you can start taking care of your body, which is the piece that I didn't have. Um, the bigger the impact as we start walking through things. If we are in our body, in our mind, our emotions, our well-being, ready to walk into that phase of life, we are not going to have nearly the symptoms that other people have. We're not going to have maybe the severity of the symptoms. And I equate it to my migraines. Once I'd been through this whole holistic part of prevention for migraines, I find I still get them here in Florida. We have these barometric pressure changes, hurricanes in the summer, cold fronts in the winter, and they can affect my head. But whereas when I was really going through it daily, my migraines would be a 9, 10 on the scale. Now the worst I have is maybe a 5, 6. I mean, that's a huge difference for people that suffer with migraines, and I'm sure they can attest to that. That's such a big thing. And of course, I do have to put a disclaimer here. They did have to work with me to get me off the Vicodin before we could do these wonderful holistic approaches. So to me, optimal health is being able to get up in the morning, um, feel energized, feel ready for your day. You have focus. You have the ability to concentrate on the task at hand. And then also, a big part of the optimal health is that you are eating foods that are giving you the nutrition to keep your body going. I mean, we hear a lot about things like intermittent fasting, and I'm not dissing that. I'm not saying don't do it, because it's worked well for me at times in my life. But to have optimal health, you need to have at least 3 meals a day so that you're fueling your body. You need to at least 5 or 6 times a week, if not more, get in your movement. And you need to be taking care of yourself. So that will be in nature. Be one of the exercises I do with people a lot is I'll tell them, go outside, take your shoes off, stand in the grass, and just breathe in deeply, because it'll ground you to nature and it will make you feel so much different. If you're in the middle of a stress episode at work or wherever, go outside and do that and see if it doesn't make a difference. So to be in optimal health, we're seeing all of these things. I'm not saying that you can live without sickness and disease. Even as much as I know, I still have issues as I've grown older that are genetic. Thank you to my mum and dad. And they can be very hard to completely work around. So you work within the system hand in hand, so that when you're going to a doctor, you're playing advocate for yourself. So you're not taking unnecessary meds, you're taking care of your body, you're feeling good, you're looking good. And one thing we haven't mentioned, and it happened to me, and it's a genetic thing, but as we get into that midlife phase, our hair starts thinning. For me, I had alopecia a few years ago. My mother had lost all of her hair by age 20. So it had been a huge thing for my sister and I that, oh my gosh, I hope that never happens to us. My sister had it, but it was just small pieces and the hair grew in. For me, as I was going through midlife, it was like hair going down the drain in the shower. And that's normal to a point for a woman in midlife. For me, it was devastating. And I've looked back on videos that I did 3 years ago, and my hair was so thin, it was unbelievable. And I've started taking better care of my scalp, of my hair, of my body in a different way, and it's had to be supplemented to get me to that point. But that can also go hand in hand with thyroid disease, as you know. So it's a big portion for us, because as women, we look at ourselves in a camera, and if we don't look good, then we don't feel good. It does something to us emotionally.
Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app, available on iOS and Android today.